little bit ago, I asked my subscribers what they consider to be their least favorite Beatles songs, and a lot of you responded, like almost 200, which is way more than I expected. But you all fell for my trap. Sweet, innocent Beatles fans, you thought you could conjure up a bad Beatles song? Do not make me laugh. The Beatles are perfect. They have never released a single bad song. So, greatest pumpkin MC, you have passed the test. You will receive a living 8-inch tall George Harrison that sings pirate shanties and dances the polka until his 72-hour lifespan leads to his imminent demise. Number 7, Dizzy Miss Lizzy. Now, a few of you mentioned this one. The thing with Dizzy Miss Lizzy is that it's not really a bad song. I mean, it's just a pretty standard cover, nothing to write home about, but definitely not something that should be considered a worst Beatles song when looked at on its own. Really, problems arise in the song for me when you focus on how it fits into its album, Help. Help seemingly ends with Yesterday, which just works perfectly as a finale song. It's soft, minimalist, and sentimental, which makes it feel like a good and distinct coda to the more energetic feel of most of the album. And then, by the end of the song, the strings and the humming fade out and you're left with a few blissful moments of silence. And then that brief feeling is cut off by... And again, the song is not bad, it's just the principle of it. The fact that this perfect poetic finale to an almost perfect album is ruined by a tacked on filler track. So yeah, I'm putting this on the list out of spite. Number 6, Wild Honey Pie. Now this one was one of the most frequently mentioned songs here, so I know a lot of you probably want this song to be in the top 2 worst, but I'm gonna defend it here a little bit. Wild Honey Pie, as you guys said, is annoying and pointless, but it's also kind of gotten to the point where it's iconic for me. The song is so f***ing messed up and random and intentionally lazy and disharmonized in its execution that I literally think it's funny and I'm happy it exists. When listening to this album, the 52 seconds where this song is playing are honestly kind of a highlight because I can bob my head with a dumbass smirk on my face while my friends groan. Also, if you do hate it, as you probably should, it's less than a minute, so you don't have to endure too much pain. So 6 seems fair in my eyes. Number 5, Yes It Is. Only 2 people have mentioned this one, and I kind of would have expected more, but at the same time, this one is pretty obscure. If you haven't heard of it, Yes It Is was the B-side for Ticket to Ride. And most of the time with Beatles singles, you can't really tell which side is the B-side, because they both give A-side energy. I Wanna Hold Your Hand hosted I Saw Her Standing There, Yellow Submarine hosted Eleanor Rigby, and Hello Goodbye hosted I'm the Walrus. All of these B-sides I actually like better than the A-side itself, but Yes It Is definitely does not fit into this category. It is just really, really, really boring. I will say the little section where John goes, is pretty damn cool, but besides that, I'm not a big fan of this one. Number 4, Little Child. Now, there's a few songs from this album that get some hate, and I'll defend most of those. Hold Me Tight, maybe repetitive, maybe nothing special, but that was literally my most played song on Spotify in 2019. It slaps, alright? Then there's Not a Second Time, kind of basic, but still not bad or anything, and I Wanna Be Your Man. That one's actually fair, and that one is kind of painfully repetitive. I Wanna Be Your Blank is repeated 28 times, and the lyrical variations lack worthwhile contemplations. I don't know why I'm rhyming, and I don't know how I went on such a tangent, but the point is that I still think these songs are fine. The only song that I can truly agree with being bad on this album is Little Child, which has a promising and cool intro, but from there is just so empty and uninspired, and like the other songs here, repetitive. Anyway, this one isn't really anything special. Next. But, real quick, let's go over a couple songs that didn't make the list, but were frequently mentioned. Dig It and Maggie May were mentioned a lot, but I think of them as cool little interludes and don't even really think of them as songs. Next, Run For Your Life. Mentioned for its creepiness in the line, I'd rather see you dead little girl than to be with another man, but I kind of find this one to be a jam. A creepy jam, but a jam I'll still bop my head to. And then someone mentioned Lovely Rita, which totally slaps and is literally my favorite song from Peppers. So angry. Okay, back to the main list. Number 3, Matchbox. Ringo only ever sang 11 songs for the Beatles, and most of the time, especially in the early days, they would only give him throwaway songs. And 2 of said throwaway songs were uneventful Carl Perkins covers. Honey Don't and Matchbox. Both of these songs make me feel, well, nothing, actually. They make me feel like a hollow shell of a man crumbling in the breeze of what is the point of this song existing? But I would say that of those two songs, Matchbox's Winds of Nothing are just a tad stronger. Seriously, this song is just so neutral. Zero emotion, zero purpose. I can't even call it bad. It's just a nothing song. Like, Wild Honey Pie at least is funny in its badness. This one is just boring, which I honestly think is worse. So yeah, 3 seems good. Number 2, Goodnight. Another Ringo one, actually. Sorry guy, I love you, but the boys gave you all the bad songs. This one was the finale to the White Album, and I get what they were going for, a lush sort of classic Hollywood sounding dreamscape lullaby goodbye to the audience. I mean, I can appreciate the effort in making the album have a proper finale, and that initial symphony kind of drags me in with its aesthetic, but the whole thing sounds really corny, and Ringo's vocals don't fit too well for me here. I will say that I do sometimes play this song acoustically as a lullaby, and it's kind of a nice song in that nature, but this recording and its placement is just pretty dang corny. It's extra disappointing too because this is the only song we got to hear after Revolution 9, making that song not really have a worthwhile payoff. Oh, and hey, speak of the devil, number 1, Revolution 9. Probably 1 in every 3 people mentioned the song as being one of the worst in their eyes, so it's obviously a popular pick, and I think that general consensus extends to the much wider Beatles community. But I'm gonna defend it a little bit, because as far as avant-garde music goes, this is not a bad song by any means. It's spooky, aesthetic, and disorienting, 3 things that pretty much define the genre. I think the problem is that, well, it's on a Beatles record, like a rock album, so it seems pretty damn out of place. And obviously, exploration in rock is not a bad thing, and the Beatles' previous dabbles in avant-garde have been great. Tomorrow Never Knows had some of the avant-garde influence, which were great for that, and a good few songs from the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour period gave us little snippets of avant-garde at the end of songs to add to the surrealism. But this album takes over 8 minutes of album time with something that is very, very off-genre. I would compare it to putting a punk song on a jazz record. It just doesn't feel like it really fits, and I would have preferred if they filled that lost time with some of the cut demos like Sour Milk Sea, Not Guilty, and Junk, which Paul would later use on his first album, but it would have worked here too. So I think it's more due to these factors that I consider Revolution 9 to be the worst Beatles song. Not because the avant-garde experience is bad itself, but because it was put in an extremely awkward place, a rock album, and it took up quite a bit of time that could have been used up by some of the other great material that they had. And there you go. Those are the only Beatles songs that I can deem in my eyes as being bad. I used to have problems with Only a Northern Song too, but I can see the appeal of that one, although I wouldn't call it top-notch. Anyway, let me know in the comments what worst Beatles songs you think I missed and whatnot. Later, Beatle boys!